Who is in favour of the draft amendment, please raise your hand. Now submit the draft resolution to the vote. Those in favour of the draft resolution contained in document S/2023/1029, please raise their hand.
En contra.
Against? Abstentions? The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2720. Abstentions?
In the last few days, the Security Council, and together with it the entire world, has been witness to the latest, and I'm not afraid to use this word, shameful, cynical, and irresponsible conduct by the United States, which is trying to avoid responsibility for the further use of the veto, resorting to all sorts of means of sabotaging the Security Council's adoption of a decision on Gaza. The draft that is now being put to a vote was initially, in our view, entirely toothless. But respecting the initiative of our Arab colleagues and their needs, we were ready to support it under pressure from the USA that essentially intercepted the authorship and usurped work on the text behind the scenes at various levels, twisting the hands of those in the region. With each new drafting, the text lost more and more important provisions. Ultimately, the wording that is being put to a vote today has been extremely neutered, including its OP4 on the mechanism that would be supposed to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian assistance to Gaza and ensure its monitoring. But worse than all of that, through the efforts of the American delegation, the draft resolution has included an extremely dangerous element for the future of Gaza. Instead of the wording on an immediate cessation of violence in OP2, an ambiguous phrase has appeared calling for the parties to create conditions for a cessation of hostilities. By signing off on this, the Council would essentially be giving the Israeli armed forces complete freedom of movement for further clearing of the Gaza Strip, and anyone who votes in favor of the text as it is currently worded would bear responsibility for that, essentially becoming complicit in the destruction of Gaza.
I'd like to reflect on the vote we just held and what it says, though, about this conflict and this body. We welcome its adoption, and we're grateful for this Council's support. We believe that the resolution begins to unblock life-saving aid whose denial has condemned more than 500,000 people in Gaza to famine. The text compels the international community to finally share in the burden that Egypt has been shouldering, and it commits all of us to breaking the cruel blockade strangling Gaza.
It took many days and many long nights of negotiating to get this right. But today, this Council provided a glimmer of hope amongst a sea of unimaginable suffering. Today, this Council called for urgent steps to immediately allow safe, unhindered, and expanded humanitarian access, and to create the conditions for a sustainable cessation of hostilities. I'll note that this is the first time this Council has used this language we believe is critical to scaling up aid and underscoring the tough steps ahead as we work together to achieve a lasting peace. Colleagues, today this Council made clear that addressing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza needs to remain at the forefront of our agenda. Today, this Council made clear that all hostages must be released immediately and unconditionally, and that humanitarian groups must be able to access hostages, including for medical visits. This resolution puts the weight of the Security Council behind these efforts and bolsters them by calling for the appointment of a senior UN official who will work to expedite the delivery of humanitarian aid at scale and in a sustained way.
Colleagues, this is a tragic moment for the Council, not a moment of the triumph of multilateral diplomacy, but rather one of a gross, unprincipled blackmail and open scorn on the part of Washington for the suffering of Palestinians and the hopes of the global community to put an end to all of this. Colleagues, if this document weren't supported by a number of Arab states, we would, of course, have vetoed it. At the same time, we also note that a number of the co-sponsors, including Arab states, withdrew their co-sponsorship. But we consistently are of the view that the Arab world is itself able to take decisions and bear full responsibility for them. This is the only reason why we did not block this document. But I want to once again underscore, we categorically do not agree with the content of the current OP2, and we are of the view that responsibility for all possible consequences lies with those states that gave their consent to its wording that was forced through by the United States.
It took this Council 75 days to finally utter the word cessation of hostilities. To utter the word cessation of hostilities. 40 days after the General Assembly first referred to that objective and tens of thousands of Palestinians killed later. This resolution is a step in the right direction. It must be implemented and must be accompanied by massive pressure for an immediate ceasefire. I repeat, immediate ceasefire. There is no way to stop the war crimes against humanity and genocide underway, but an immediate ceasefire. Ceasefire again. There is no way to start addressing the occupation-made humanitarian catastrophe, but an immediate ceasefire. Ceasefire again. There is no way to release those held captive, but an immediate ceasefire.
If this Council seeks to end hostilities, it should start by supporting Israel's mission of returning the hostages and eliminating the Hamas threat, and at the very least, it must prevent Hamas's empowerment. Just as this Council is committed to increasing aid, it should also be committed to blocking the smuggling of arms and transfer of weapons to the Hamas terrorists. And just as this Council is committed to ensuring aid reaches Gazan civilians, it should also be committed to ensuring the said aid is not diverted into Hamas terrorists who do not care about the civilian population. The focus of any resolution should also hold Hamas accountable while taking every step to prevent them from entrenching themselves and regaining power. Mr. President, Hamas is a genocidal terror organization. Hamas is a direct threat to the security of Israel, to Gazans, and regional stability. In order to promote security, this Council should first recognize Hamas's terror regime and then focus on the elimination of its threats. It should be focused on freeing the hostages. It should be focused on preventing Hamas from exploiting aid. It should be focused on ensuring Hamas can no longer expand their terror infrastructure. Any resolution adopted by this Council should be focused primarily on these points, and this is the Council's responsibility, and this is key to security.